Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Educational AD Podcast. We're going to meet both of our podcast guests in just a minute, but as always, we're going to give a shout out to our sponsors. Now, come on, don't hit that fast forward button, even if you heard these messages before. These are all great companies. I used them as an AD. I highly recommend that you add them to your team. So take the next couple of minutes, listen to the shout outs, then listen to our interview, and then go visit these sponsors if you're not already using them. All right, here we go. We want to thank Snap Raise for their support of the podcast. Have you ever spent weeks and weeks with a fundraiser and been disappointed in the results? Well, those days are gone because Snap Raise is hands down the best online fundraising platform. We used it at our school, tremendous success. Coaches, parents, everybody loved it because it works. Go to snapraise.com. You can check out their other great platforms. But if you're looking for a fundraiser, you just found it. Go to snapraise.com. We want to thank Hometown Ticketing for their support. Hometown is the leading digital ticketing provider to schools and colleges. I don't think I need to say anything more. Go to hometownticketing.com to get started. We'd like to thank Vital Signs Wall of Fame. If you're looking for a really cool way to display your school record boards or show off your school's Hall of Fame, go to Vital Signs Wall of Fame and take a look at their interactive touchscreen video consoles. It's also a great way to share your school's unique history and brag about your proudest moments. The website is vitalsignswalloffame.com. We'd like to thank Gipper for their support. You know, your student athletes are on social media, so are a lot of their parents. And if they're not seeing content that celebrates their accomplishments and promotes your program, you're missing out on a great opportunity. Go to Gipper.com. They'll have you creating world-class content in seconds. That's Gipper.com. Don't forget to mention the podcast. We'd like to say thank you to Home Campus. Home Campus is a platform that you're going to use every single day. Things like scheduling, results, rosters, communication. How about student athlete eligibility and clearance? That alone is worth the price. Go to homecampus.com to get started. That's it. Go to homecampus.com. We want to say thanks to Ohio University and their online masters in athletic administration. Now, I didn't get my master's from Ohio University, but my assistant athletic director did, along with thousands of others. And it was a great experience. It's only 20 months, totally online, very reasonably priced. And while you're earning your master's, you're also completing 11 NIAAA leadership training courses at no extra charge. Go to ohio.edu/info/MAA, the Ohio University Online Masters in Athletic Administration. We want to say thanks to Huddle. As a football coach, I used Huddle for years, but when I became an athletic director, I made sure our school was a Huddle school. Our coaches loved it, our student athletes loved it, even our parents loved the streaming, but there's so much more. Go to huddle.com, join the 8 million users. Turn your school into a Huddle school. We'd like to thank Sideline Interactive, indoor score tables and video boards. Go to sidelineinteractive.com and schedule a live web demo to see their products in action. Our Sideline Interactive indoor score table, probably one of the best purchases I ever made. Go to sidelineinteractive.com for more information. And we'd like to thank Athletic Surveys by LifeTrack. At my school, we use surveys for everything, kids, coaches, parents, you name it. And the information that came back was incredibly valuable, almost always positive. And that was a tremendously useful tool to have when you're talking with a frustrated parent or student athlete, or maybe your principal or even your school board. Go to athleticsurveys.com. They're going to create a custom survey just for you that lets you take the pulse of everybody in your program. That's athleticsurveys.com. Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Educational AD Podcast. This is episode number 599, just teetering on 600. And we've got a very special, a 2-for-1 today. We're going to be visiting with Mark White and Jeremy Schlitz. They're going to tell you more about their background, but just a little bit. Mark's a certified master athletic administrator. He's the director of athletics at Presque Isle High School. That's in Maine. Jeremy is a certified athletic administrator. He's the district AD for the Madison, Wisconsin, Madison Metropolitan School District. And both of them together are the chair and co-chair of a brand new NIAAA committee that's important to every single member of the NIAAA. And beyond that, the Health and Wellness Committee. So, Mark and Jeremy, welcome to the Educational AD Podcast.
Thanks, Jake, for having us.
Yeah, looking forward to it.
Well, it's a busy time for athletic directors, and we appreciate you guys taking some time out of your busy schedules to share with our listeners. Tell us a little bit about your journey and the committee. We always like to let our listeners have a chance to get to know our guests. So, Mark, you're at the top of my screen. I'm going to start with you. Tell our listeners a little bit about yourself. Give us that, life story in 2 minutes.
Oh, hopefully it'll take 2 minutes. I'm a lifelong Mainer. I grew up and I went to school here in Maine. I live on the I guess I live very close to the New Brunswick border, the province of New Brunswick. And I went to high school here. I lived here. I went away. I attended the University of Maine at Orono
for a second.
and now I'm back
Yeah.
working at my rival high school, Presque Isle High School. And it's been a great experience. I was involved in athletics all through my high school career. My father was a big soccer referee in the state of Maine, and as a kid, I used to go with him all over the place and meeting different people, and taught social studies for 19 years and coached a lot here at the high school and at the middle school. And the opportunity came for me to sort of get into business, and I was able to get a master's degree from Ohio University in sports sports management or interscholastic sports management rather, and starting my 14th year here at Presque Isle High School. It's been a great. I consider myself very lucky to be a Mainer. I think that there's no better place. To be able to serve not only my local league, but also a regional conference, the NIAAA I'm active with, and I'm getting more and more involved in the NIAAA.
Okay, thanks so much for sharing. I appreciate you painting that picture for our listeners. Makes them feel like they're right in Maine there with you. Jeremy, let's hear, like I said, your life story in 2 minutes or less.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a little bit further away from the Canadian border, but grew up in central Wisconsin, about 5 hours as opposed to the 1 hour mark is up there. So appreciate you having us northern ADs on with us, but grew up in the family business of education. Both my parents were elementary school teachers and support people there, and my sister is a teacher currently up there in Wausau, Wisconsin, and my dad was my varsity tennis coach and my sister's girls basketball varsity coach. And so grew up on a gym, in a school, on those four-wheeled scooters in elementary schools, flying around, busting up our fingers, doing all those things. But really, truly, it was the family business. And I was going to break away from that. I came to school down here at UW-Madison, where I still live, to be an actuary. And started down that path, and my basketball coach up in Wausau had moved down to Madison, and I ended up volunteering as a freshman assistant basketball coach my sophomore year in college, and decided then I wasn't cut out for office life at that point and needed to do some more things to give back to the family business and education-based athletics, and shifted to be a math teacher and coach, and was fortunate enough to get hired at Madison Memorial, where I right out of school, where I coached 5 different programs, 37 seasons over 15 years before becoming the athletic director there, and was just really never looked to be an athletic director. Always envisioned myself as a teacher coach. The opportunity came above, and I thought the larger impact I could make. This is something that I was interested to, and the transition was tough. You miss the day-to-day interactions with those kids, but I think it was really rewarding for me to be able to maybe impact some more and to start to work with the adults and coaching the coaches and doing that. And the second year as an athletic director, I went out to the national conference and came out of one of my first sessions, and sitting at the fountain was another Wisconsin AD, Peggy Seegers-Braun, who's been doing it forever and is an icon in the business, and definitely here. And sat down and had lunch with her, and I think, you know, I'll never forget that one over out there in LA, because I think it really charted that course to me being all in to the servant leadership that is the NIAAA, is WADA in our state, and was fortunate enough to be elected to be our association president. I served in that role through our 4-year term. I was the president in 2019. And then now I'm the state mentor coordinator in Wisconsin as well. So I get the opportunity to kind of hopefully continue to broaden that scope, but it's just great to have so many more and varied interactions. I love being part of the committee I'm on with Mark, because we've got people from across the country. I love the opportunities I've had to teach and present at the national level because of the people I've met, the relationships I've built, and it really fills my cup up to have these conversations with ADs and grow from the things we do besides just the operational stuff on the day-to-day.
Oh yeah. Boy, you mentioned Peggy Seegers-Braun. She was an original guest our first season. Great resource up there. And I think Wisconsin probably does one of the best jobs, the WADA organization, of promoting their own ADs. On Twitter, on social media. Just very, very cool to see that. And I love your comment about not planning to become an athletic director. I think it was Daryl Nance from South Carolina. His comment is, most of us, we just forgot to duck when the superintendent tossed the keys at us. That's how we became an AD. Jeremy, let's go and stick with you. Share, if you will. Again, you're a district AD, but what sort of makeup are your schools? Obviously it's metropolitan, but just kind of describe the setting that you work with multiple athletic directors at different schools. And then Mark will hear about your school.
Yeah, so our 4 comprehensive high schools are all approximately 2,000 students. School district's got about 27,000 students in a K-12. We've got 6 high schools, 4 comprehensives, which is where we offer our co-curriculars. And I started at Madison Memorial, and we're offering all the programs our state association does at almost all the levels that we do. And you definitely see the impact that it's got. What I really liked from transitioning from when I was in a dual role as both the school-based AD and the district AD to now this is my 2nd year solely doing the district work, is really the 4 uniqueness of the buildings, of the communities, of the school communities, and how sports is definitely something that ties them together in ways that you can kind of preserve the uniqueness, but all kind of do the same things. And I think that really is also what we see out of, in general, that AD networking. We're all doing the same job, but we're kind of an island in our buildings, and trying to make those islands into kind of an archipelago, either across your conference or district or whatever it might be, to have kind of that shared approach has really been fun. We celebrate the uniqueness of our 4 high schools here in Madison, and also try to make a consistency, not only of resources and promotion and programming, but also of just like the value that it has in our students' lives. Because it's not only the 9 through 12 students that should be impacted by what we're doing in education-based athletics, wanting to have that whole school district have some identity and understand the impact that being part of the bigger picture can be.
One of the things that we try to do with this podcast is this idea of sharing best practices. And, with 2 guests on here, we're juggling our format a little bit, but what are some things that you do as a district AD? And you talked about the uniqueness of each school. At the same time, hey, they're all part of Madison Metropolitan. What are some things that you do to keep them, focused, if you will? That's my word. Hey, we're on the same team, even though we might be trying to, beat you on Tuesday night.
Yeah, we've got I think the biggest part is just those connection points. We meet weekly. And I think having that ability to be transparent with each other and be vulnerable and trust each other, and to share the struggles that we're having, but also understand the struggles that others are having, and then trying in my job to kind of coalesce that into, well, how do we do what's best for all? How do we bring up, the people that need some support, and how do we celebrate those that are excelling at this right now, but using each other as the best resource, and watching just whether it's our text group or our G chat between the five of us, or my four school-based ADs and myself, throw problems and solutions out there, and just watching that develop. And I think the shared approach to it is listening, hearing what the other people's stories are, and then trying to bring that together so we can share out to all, like, this is why we do it. It may not be something that you think we need in our space, but we're doing it because we want to lift up all, because if we'll lift up all, we're going to bring everybody along together, and it's going to help us all out.
Oh, I love it. Great stuff. All right, Mark, share with our listeners the makeup of your high school. And again, I'm going to hit you up with some best practices.
Well, my makeup, like I said before, I am about 15 miles from the New Brunswick border, right in the heart of Maine potato country. Where I live is rural, and the economy is mostly based on potato harvest, which is starting as we speak, because we break for 3 weeks. So the high school kids can work the potato harvest, and
Oh,
that
wow.
comes up next week. So that makes us kind of unique. We think we have the best potatoes in the world, but I guess, we get somebody on here from Idaho or something, they'll probably think differently. But it's very much, my community is just so supportive of us, of this department, and of their student athletes. We have great facilities. We're a smaller school, about 460 kids, but we are very proud Wildcats here. And our seasons, we have a wonderful summer, a perfect fall, and then we have winter and spring. So sports, especially in the wintertime, high school athletics in this area during winter is very important. It gets people out of the house. I know some of my fan base, the only time they see each other is during basketball season. So, we are a smaller school. There are much larger schools in Maine, but for where we are, we're the biggest school in the area. And like I said, I'm very lucky to work where I work, and we're going to enter the traditional potato harvest at the end of next week, and we keep playing. The kids walk off out of the fields and off the potato harvesters, all muddy and dusty, and change into their practice gear, and we hit it. So it's really an interesting, it's really an interesting time for us and it just happens to be when we're chatting with you.
Boy, thanks for sharing that. I've never heard of that. Well, maybe 100 years ago, you stopped
Yeah,
school for the harvest, but
right.
that was going to be one of my questions. How does that play into, scheduling and games and practices? But so there's no classes, but the students still practice with their teams. I mean, as an athletic director and coach, you got to love that.
It is, and I'll tell you, we are an outlying school in our conference. Most of our games are 3 hours away, so we get to travel and play soccer and cross country and golf and those things during this break, and they're not missing school now. And as I said, this community is so supportive that the kids who do work for farmers do let them time. But yeah, it's a 7 o'clock practice, and they get done practice at 8 or 8:30, and they're back up 4 o'clock in the morning to hit the field. So it's very unique, and it's not the whole state of Maine. It's just us up here. We call us the crown of Maine because we're at the top, I guess. And but we keep going right on. And like I said, we have a lot of midweek games that are 2.5, 3 hours away because they're not going to miss school. So we keep on moving.
Well, in true athletic director fashion, you take a challenge and you make it work.
Yep.
Very cool stuff.
Yep.
We're going to go and take our first break, but we're going to come back with more. Our guests today are Mark White and Jeremy Schlitz, unique athletic directors in different settings, but they are the chair and co-chair of the new NIAAA Health and Wellness Committee. We're going to hear about that and a lot more. This is the Educational AD Podcast. We'd like to thank our friends at SnapRaise for their support of the podcast. Have you ever spent weeks and weeks with a fundraiser and been disappointed in the results? Well, those days are gone. Go to snapraise.com. It's hands down the best online fundraiser out there. We used it in our school with tremendous success. Coaches loved it, parents loved it. Hey, it works. Go to snapraise.com. You can check out their other great platforms. But if you're looking for a fundraiser, you just found it. Go to snapraise.com. We also want to say thanks to Hometown Ticketing, the leading digital ticketing provider to schools and colleges. I don't think I need to say anything more. Go to hometownticketing.com. It's digital ticketing that offers more. We'd like to thank Vital Signs Wall of Fame. If you're looking for a really cool way to display your school record boards for all the teams, for all the different events, or show off your school's Hall of Fame, go to Vital Signs Wall of Fame and take a look at their interactive touchscreen video consoles. They're also a great way to share your school's unique history and brag about your proudest moments. The website is vitalsignswalloffame.com. Make sure you mention the podcast. We'd also like to say thank you to Ohio University and their online masters in athletic administration. Now, I didn't get my master's from Ohio University, but my assistant athletic director did, along with thousands of others. And it was a great experience. It's a very affordable program, just 20 months, totally online. And while you're earning your master's degree, Ohio University also includes 11 NIAAA leadership training courses at no extra charge. Go to ohio.edu/info/MAA, the Ohio University Online Masters in Athletic Administration.
Yeah, a big part of my, a big part of my development as an athletic administrator was all the work in my time at Ohio University, taking their online on their MAA courses. It was a great way to learn. It was very pragmatic, and I still stay in touch with those folks. So great experience for me at Ohio University.
Well,
Mark, your gratitude's probably a little bit my jealousy. As a former basketball coach, sitting with 5 different VCRs, splicing tape together to do scouting reports. All of our programs now use Huddle, which does a great job of saving some time, let them focus on the kids. So appreciate that sponsor that you just talked about there too, Jake, as well.
Well, yeah, we're going to be a Huddle school here, starting in the winter too. We just met this week and to set that up. So looking forward to it.
Oh, wow. Well, guys, thanks so much for sharing that. Mark, I've heard that, I heard it from my assistant AD and from many, many others in the Ohio program, the network that they help you create with other graduates and their networks. Just very cool. Thanks for sharing that. Sure. And Jeremy, I remember those days vividly of the VHS tapes and putting together highlight tapes. And I came to Huddle late in my career, and I was just going, wow, I wish this would have been around sooner. So thanks for sharing that, guys. Once again, for our listeners, our guests today are Jeremy Schlitz. He's the district athletic director for the Madison, Wisconsin Metropolitan School District. And Mark White, he's the athletic director for Presque Isle High School, way up, I don't know what the islands are, in the state of Maine. But they're also the co-chair and chair of the NIAAA's brand new Health and Wellness Committee. We're going to hear about that in our next segment. But gentlemen, again, one of the things we try to do with the podcast is talk about journeys and share journeys. And I think it's important for some of our younger ADs or new ADs to hear about our journeys with our state association and with NIAAA. So I think, Mark, it's your turn to go first. Share, how'd you first get involved with the Maine Association, and then how'd you get involved with NIAAA?
Well, my job with the NIAAA is my involvement is started the second day I took the job. What I call the legendary and proud to call a friend, Marty Ryan, calls me up and says, "Hey, Mark, I need somebody for the ski committee." And before I could get out and say, "Marty, I have never been on a set of skis in my entire life," he hung up and had to go make another call. And what happened there, and so that got my involvement into the Maine, the MIAAA, and also the Maine Principals Association. But from there, it's been a really, I've been very fortunate. I've had great mentors, people not only that are my mentors, but they're friends. I can call up for just about anything. And I started off as attending conferences, and then I started teaching LTC classes. Fortunate enough to be a past president of the NIAAA, and like I said, that is one. I look forward to that week. Oh, just about when we get together in April on the coast of Maine. That's one of the best weeks of the year. But I've been very lucky that people have sort of taken me under their wing, and allowed me to do things on behalf of the organization. And so that all kind of led to started going to national conferences, um, doing those little things, introducing speakers, taking attendance at LTC courses. And um, I was able to join the leadership cohort, one of the first years for the NIAAA cohort, and I went through that. And then for 2 years, I was one of the facilitators for the mentoring cohort. So that sort of got me into doing things heavily on the national level. And since then, I'm on the LTC staff for 710A and 710B. I've presented workshops, and now Jeremy and I get a call from Phil Risen and Rich Barton say, "Hey, can you guys jump on a podcast or on a Zoom meeting?" And I didn't know Jeremy, so I just figured, I must have done something, because this is really like going to the principal's office here. But they talked to us and about this new committee. So I've been just incredibly fortunate. I'm probably more fortunate than I deserve.
Great story. And I love how you talked about those smaller things that we all do. Volunteering to be on a committee, to take attendance, to introduce a speaker,
Right.
because it's those things. And Jeremy, you kind of shared this in your intro. Those are the things that lead to, being a president of your state association down the road. It's not a one-stop hop. There's other things that happen, but it helps get things going. Mark, I'm going to put you on the spot. Looking
Sure.
back at your LTI experience as a student, can you think of, like they say, I think it's on CBS, one shining moment, when that one moment where, you hear something in a class and you go, it's usually one of two things. Boy, what a great idea. I want to bring that back.
Yeah.
Or, wow, we're not doing that. I need to bring that back. Can you share one of those moments?
Yeah, and this was going to be one of my three bits of advice, but the I think it's 715 maybe, where you're talking about dealing with challenging personalities. The person I took from a Maine, I wish I could remember who it was to give them the credit, said, you don't have to fight every fight. And at that time I was young in my career, and I knew I was picking a lot of bad hills to die on, and to me that always stuck with me. And I just had a talk to a neighboring AD is brand new, and I said, we don't have to fight everything. These coaches have got to be responsible sometimes. We can help them, but I've gotten, if there's anything that I've done better over the last 10, 12 years is choosing my battles.
Yeah. No, and again, I was right there with you. And I love that. I would always share with my coaches, make it easy for me to back you up.
Yeah.
Okay? Make it easy for me to support you, and I will. Okay.
Yeah.
Jeremy, what was your journey? And you shared a little bit, but it's important, I think. What was your journey with your state association and with NIAAA?
Yeah, I mean, the short answer is I'm really good at saying yes, and trying to get better at saying no is kind of where you end up. But I think I'm also, it's a little bit serendipitous. I'm very fortunate. Dr. John Olson, who many people probably can put on their NIAAA Mount Rushmore, if you will, Had this job that I'm in right now as the Madison Schools District Athletic Administrator. And Gary Colpine, who was a Hall of Famer in our state, was the AD at Madison Memorial. And it was just the way that things had been done. So there was a little bit of a tradition of involvement when I took that position at Madison Memorial, where it wasn't a hurdle where you had to ask permission to be gone for a conference or ask permission to do something a little bit outside of your direct job duties, because they understood the positive that the whole school, the coaches, the kids, the community would get as you kind of stepped outside and made those connections. And, you know, as I got into the job and, you know, there's a number of different people. I think of my first conference, I got offered the job as the athletic director on August 16th. I got married on August 19th. That was a little over 12 years ago. And in November, I went to a conference, and not knowing any better, this was our state conference, which was in November, I signed up for a class each of the 4 sessions that was offered. And I remember taking a class from Jim Seckle and Sandy Ferris, 502, about what it means to be an AD, and like the servant leadership component, and also just like it clicked for me. And this is a way that I can give back to why I'm here as a 3-sport athlete in high school, as somebody who grew up in education, as somebody that wants to make an impact on a broad scale. That class, I think, kind of set the course for me. I've taken over 30 LTC courses. I've kind of done all of that. And when you get involved with it, you realize like, hey, there's something that I really am passionate about. How do I get involved with that? Whether that's reached out to the state association and just a willingness to, hey, I'll serve on that committee. And then somehow I ended up as the chair of our conference, statewide conference realignment committee, which is not the way to always make the most friends, but it does definitely get you in contact with a lot of people. And I think, you know, things like those opportunities and having some veteran ADs that for whatever reason noticed me or I reached out to them, encouraged me to run for our state presidency when I did that. And I was fortunate enough to get that opportunity and win that election. And I think, you know, as those you kind of fall up that escalator sometimes when it goes to those sorts of things. And I think timing was really important. I really value allyship, and I think our district does a great job around diversity, equity, inclusion, belonging work, around mental health work, around some of the COVID response, where I had a baseline skill set that was helpful because of the work that we did within our district to share those experiences outside. And so then sometimes I was able to be tapped into those different places where there was a need, because I had a foundation because of the job I'm fortunate enough to have here in Madison. And after the state association work, I've been lucky enough to present the last 3 or 4 national conferences with some different people on different topics. And, you know, I think it's great when people, your colleagues, recognize that there's somebody that you want to talk to. And I think that's why, you know, I want to do that same for everybody that I can. But I'm just so grateful for those veteran ADs that gave me that opportunity. I trusted that I would uphold what the really important things are about the NIAAA and about education-based athletics. And they knew I would say yes. And now, as we transition eventually to that mental health and wellness, I want to also encourage you to sometimes say no for your own good and for your retention and for your longevity in this profession. And those are things I think are daily things that Mark and I are definitely trying to learn still, you know, even where we are, knowing that you got to set up some boundaries and understand what your capacity is. But I have definitely learned that I am more recharged after our state conference in November, for sure after our national conference in December, where those are the things that are filling up my bucket and allowing me to hopefully be present for our coaches, kids, and community when I get back from them.
Wow, great message. And again, I love again, you really describe that journey of, you know, getting involved, you know, as a new AD, a young AD, and now, you know, you're at that point where you're giving back and you are, you know, mentoring that next generation. And, you know, absolutely right. I think all athletic directors, it's hard for us to say no, because when somebody comes to us, it's you know, it's a problem, it's a challenge, and we see it that way. And what are we? We're wired to try to fix things. Well, here, you know, yeah, I can do that. So, you know, very important. Yeah. And you mentioned filling up your bucket. That's one of the metaphors that I use in talking about what we do as ADs. You know, we're pouring ourselves into others. We're pouring out our bucket. So we do need to fill it back up. Very cool. Quick question here. You're a district AD. You're working with, coaching those ADs at the schools. What are some things that you do? Athletic directors, I think, love to provide professional development for their coaches, or in this case, their ADs. But sometimes it's hard to do, whether it's funding or time or just you name it. What are some things that you found that you are able to provide and you enjoy providing for your athletic directors in this area of professional development?
Yeah, we've found some ways to do some like really relevant book study types or book club type work, where a lot of things can do on their own. We have a shared way to have some conversations. That's both with athletic directors and staff. In terms of professional development specifically for my ADs, I think we've got great resources out there. You mentioned some, there are also sponsors there, and there are different programs now that some of the corporations are looking at ways that they can connect back and provide some of those things. There's a lot of free resources out there, and really making those available as a repository of resources. The toolbox that you guys build out, we've got one on our state association page as well, and really finding a relevance and putting out, whether it's monthly or weekly, like, hey, I know tournament time's coming up. Here's some tools about hosting that, be really good for you to take a look at, and really trying to make sure that we're not spinning our wheels, recreating stuff that's already been done, and instead just tweaking, and also trying to be on the cutting edge. And I've used some of our district resources to leverage things around how we could potentially use artificial intelligence, AI, to be more efficient, to do some of these tasks that we have, and bringing and connecting those departments. I think that's the neatest thing about working in a district that has multiple high schools, is we have some resources within district that'll provide us opportunities to learn about things, whether that's in marketing and branding, or around AI, as I mentioned, or around different community partnerships that we're able to have. But also then expanding that as my state mentor coordinator role to how maybe you can do that in your area, your conference, things like that, to make those connections. So I think the professional development that I try to provide is really connecting them to relevant resources and giving them that opportunity and that space to take advantage of them. One thing I'm doing this year is I meet weekly individually with each of the 4 ADs, and I've got a thing where I ask them, what are 3 things I can take off your plate this week? And, one of them is like, write an email for me because I haven't had time to write this email about X, Y, or Z. Well, when I can give them that time back, which is maybe something that is going to take a lot more time for them because they're worried about it, and it's something that I have had experience with before, and then we can talk about it, and it's something that's off their plate. Hopefully that's a way that they can develop who they want to be, and the capacity that they've got. So I think that's a really wonderful thing that I've been able to do. And just a couple weeks in, being able to take some things off that day-to-day plate for a school AD is, I think, a way to allow them the space to learn about things that they want to.
Oh, wow, great idea. I love it. Okay. Guys, we're going to do this at the end of the podcast, but let's go and do it now too. If one of our listeners wanted to reach out, pick your brain a little bit about how you do things at your school or your district, or just add you, we already talked about networking, add you to their network, what's the best way that they can get a hold of you? Jeremy, you go first.
Yeah, best way is probably email for me. JSCHLITZ at madison.k12.wi.us. I don't like to go to bed with an unread email, and it's the first thing I like to do in the morning. And there's definitely a lot of things I can unpack there. But I think that's a great way to start that conversation, and then make sure it's something that I'm not going to miss. I do, use socials for some, use SportsU for some, have a bunch of different ways that I connect. But I think from an intentionality standpoint, email is probably the best way to connect with me and allow me to share resources that I've got with you as well.
Okay. And Mark, how do our listeners get a hold of you?
Yeah, I think that's the same way. It's by email. It's all lowercase, white m at, it's the word SAD, SAD, the number 1.org. And yeah, that's a good way to get a hold of me anyway.
Okay. And I think both Mark and Jeremy's information is on the NIAAA portal for our NIAAA members. Let's go and take a break. When we come back, Jeremy and Mark are going to share, their current activity with the national organization as the chair and vice chair of the NIAAA's Health and Wellness Committee. Let's go and take that break, but we'll be back. This is the Educational AD Podcast. We'd like to say thanks to Gipper for their support of the podcast. Your students are on social media, and if they're not seeing content that celebrates their accomplishments and promotes your program, you're missing out on a great opportunity. Go to Gipper.com. Their team will have you creating world-class content in seconds, and it's so easy, even I can do it. The website is Gipper.com. Make sure you mention the podcast, Gipper.com. We also want to say thank you to Home Campus. Home Campus is a platform that you're going to use every single day, whether it's for scheduling, uploading rosters or scores, communication. The student athlete eligibility and clearance platform alone is worth the cost. And to get started, all you have to do is go to homecampus.com. That's it. Go to homecampus.com. We want to say thanks to Huddle. At my school, I used Huddle as a football coach for years, but when I became an athletic director, I made sure that we were a Huddle school, and our coaches, our student athletes, and even our parents just loved all the features of Huddle. Go to huddle.com, join the 8 million users, and turn your school into a Huddle school. We also want to say thanks to Sideline Interactive, indoor score tables and video boards. Go to sidelineinteractive.com and schedule a live web demo to see their score tables and their score boards in action. Probably one of the best purchases I ever made was our Sideline Interactive indoor score table. Go to sidelineinteractive.com. Check out their great products today. Once again, welcome back to the Educational AD Podcast. Our two guests today, Mark White, Certified Master Athletic Administrator from Presque Isle High School in Maine, and Jeremy Schlitz, a Certified Athletic Administrator. He's the District AD for the Madison, Wisconsin Metropolitan School District. Both of them serve as Chair and Vice Chair for the NIAAA's brand new Health and Wellness Committee. Gentlemen, can you share with our listeners, how did this committee get started? The obvious question, why health and wellness? I know, but share, kind of this process, where you're at now, and then maybe where the committee is going to be going.
Yeah, I'll start. Thanks, Jake. This committee, I think the origins of this committee really is traced back to coming out of COVID. I think COVID taught us something, that how important interscholastic athletics were to communities, coaches, student athletes, and ADs. And when that was taken away, I think that brought a lot of things to the forefront in terms of, we're fragile. We're human beings are fragile, and something that, we worked on the idea that COVID sort of brought out some of these frailties we have emotionally and mentally when you took something important away from people. Not sure. Can we stop just for a second, Jake? Do you mind?
Oh, sure. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think, Mark, to your point about taking a pause, it's what we needed to do. Sometimes we get caught in our heads, and I think you're absolutely right about the origin of why this came to the forefront, especially for athletic administrators. I was fortunate enough. My partner, my wife, is in mental health. She was a school counselor and has transitioned into therapy and community counseling. So it was something that was very present in my day to day, but I don't think it was something that we saw a lot of in our circles that we travel in. I think this is really an inflection point in the way that we're interacting with students and trying to teach that generation of coaches how to navigate with a different kind of worldview and way that things are approached. And I think COVID really kind of magnified and amplified some of those things. And as a response to it, mental health became something we started talking about. It started losing a little bit of its stigma. I was fortunate enough to be able to, as part of our state association, us to start providing some mental health services through some contracted with a consulting group in Wisconsin that we were able to do, kind of coming right out of that. I think probably the reason I got asked to be here, I won a trip to Hawaii to present at their Hawaii Athletic Directors Association. Rich was there. My wife and I presented on some mental health topics around how to take care of yourself. And then that's kind of where this has kind of gone is, we do a great job of taking care of others. We are servant leaders. That's the identity of who we have always been as athletic directors and the NIAAA. And now we're learning to sustain what we're able to do. We've got to take care of ourselves. And I think that's what the reason that this committee kind of came up so quickly was because this is a service that we all need to make sure we can maintain and kind of elevate the experience that we're providing for others. And the first and foremost thing that we decided we need to do is convince people they got to take care of themselves. And that's why this group is here, is to provide resources and also an understanding of it's time to take care of ourselves so we can continue to do the great jobs that we're doing as athletic administrators. I look forward to in a couple hours, I've got my biweekly therapy appointment is in 2 hours from now. And that was not something I can imagine that I would have said even 2 or 3 years ago. But as somebody who kept telling others to go get help because you're seeing them get stressed and frazzled, and then starting to realize like we have to take care of ourselves. And the group that we've got from across the country has been great about understanding, we're called health and wellness. Right now, we're really focusing on our mental health and our emotional wellness because we've got to be okay to help others out. And I think that's going to be the initial drive of this committee. And like all things, they're going to kind of evolve to respond to what the members need. But I think Mark pointed out why we needed this committee. We're starting to figure out what we can do to help. And first and foremost, it's going to be, I think, and hopefully this podcast and others that maybe we've been on, is people to understand like it is really important to put that oxygen mask on first. Even though I know all of us ADs, when we're on a plane, we'd probably be putting on our coach, our managers, our players, and everybody before we do that, because that's the way that we normally operate. But we're going to hopefully get out that storyline of why it's really important for not only ourselves, but all the people that we touch, that we're able to take care of ourselves, both mentally and emotionally, so we can show up for the people that we're serving.
Yeah, thanks, Jeremy. Another sort of smaller part of the committee is to form this network of being able to share best practices throughout the country, something that may not have been in place during COVID. So each state, our goal is for each state to have a health and wellness coordinator sitting on their state association board, where they can be that person can sort of be the place that information is distributed throughout the memberships in each of the states. That way there's a mechanism in place for sharing best practices, what's working. Hey, Jeremy, what's going on? We're seeing this. Yes, us too. That sort of thing to really, be there and I think it all ties together with support. That's what we needed, and we needed support from each other. So another part of the committee really is that whole building up a system of networking between and among states.
I think lastly, we're really looking forward to being able to kind of showcase some of these things at future conferences, whether that's, a de-stress station with some wellness or yoga or massage or mindfulness or things at the conference where we can experience those things together. I think we've got some wonderful, great, huge goals. And we're excited to kind of get launched here at Austin and make some connections. We've got a talking and trading and a lunch and learn piggybacked with, I'm fortunate enough to be able to present, and Mark had pointed on our partnership with USCA, the athlete. I'm sorry, I'm missing the acronym right now, but they're a partner with us to kind of help support both our athlete and our AD kind of health and wellness as well. And Dr. Craig Perry and I are going to be able to present specifically on that topic in one of the mini sessions that we're doing. So we're going to be able to hopefully get the word out and find out some other people that have similar passions that want to get involved with this work, like Mark pointed out, at the state level. And also, as things continue to evolve, this is just another great way where we can take care of each other. by taking care of ourselves.
Hey, we had a little audio glitch there. Mark, you had another point that you wanted to make.
Yeah, well, the Health and Wellness Committee really at this juncture is going to be focusing on mental and emotional health. And one of the target areas, one of the areas that we hope that will, benefit from the work we do is to helping to retain ADs and coaches. We know that from the first 2, 3, 4 years is if we can support our younger ADs, so that is maybe we'll have them on for the long haul. So we're looking to give these young ADs, or all ADs, but the tools to sort of help themselves. And one of our sayings that we have in the committee is that in order for us to be an effective leader, we got to be okay ourselves. And that is something that we're going to try to really get over to young ADs and try to give them the skills to manage this, because this is only my 14th year, and this is the changes in 14 years has been just astounding. And I can't imagine, in another 10 years, what these jobs will look like. So we really want to invest some time and effort into young ADs to get them so they're in it for the long haul.
Oh, no, absolutely. I think that's true from state to state. We can just support them, keep them, nurture them for those first few years. We probably got a great chance of keeping them for the long term. Guys, this has been very cool to connect with each of you, hear about your stories. And again, thank you so much for all you're doing with the NIAAA committee. But we're not done yet. We always wrap up our shows with the Athletic Director Toolbox. Now, you're both veteran ADs, but we're going to take our final break, hear from Athletic Surveys, who sponsored this segment. And when we come back, I'm going to challenge each of you to send out a brand new athletic director on a very first job, but I'm only going to let you put 3 things in the toolbox. So let's take that break. And when we come back, we're going to hear what Jeremy Schlitz and Mark White are going to put into their new athletic director toolbox. We want to thank Athletic Surveys for sponsoring the AD Toolbox segment. Athletic directors already get feedback, but a lot of times it's from a very small group that just wants to complain. Athletic Surveys will connect you to that group, but they're also going to connect you to the 98% of your stakeholders that support your program. And having that data is extremely valuable, especially when you're visiting with that frustrated parent, or maybe your principal, or even your school board. Go to athleticsurveys.com. They're going to create a custom survey that lets you take the pulse of everybody in your program. That's athleticsurveys.com. Well, it's that time of the podcast. We've been visiting today. It's a 2-for-1. Jeremy Schlitz, the district athletic director from Madison, Wisconsin, and Mark White, the athletic director at Presque Isle High School in Maine. Famous potatoes up there. Tremendous athletic backgrounds for both of them from different settings, but we're going to find out what tools they're going to give us for our athletic director toolbox. Jeremy, let's go ahead and go with you first. What are your 3 tools for our brand new athletic director?
I think my first tool, and I can thank my wife for this one, is, finding a intentional way to set some boundaries. Have a do not disturb on your phone, where, you're not going to respond after 10 p.m. or before 7 a.m. unless it's an emergency. But use that kind of technology to set some limits for yourself and be able to step away from that, because you do your job when you're doing your job, and everybody feels like you need to do your job 24/7. But to do it well, you've got to be able to kind of compartmentalize some of those things and work on that kind of life-work balance. Next one, I think, especially for our newer ADs, the Calm app. It's just a phone app that can walk you through a bunch of different things, whether that's meditation or breathing exercises. I know, and I still have this in my 13th year, there are nights when I can't get to sleep, or I wake up at 3 a.m. because there's something just spinning in my brain. And I think having a tool where you can just click a button and it somehow is able to try to reset what's going on in that brain to maybe give yourself the rest that you need, I think is a wonderful tool there for you. And then the last one, and this is a little bit self-serving to our committee, is subscribe to the Sports U channel for our Health and Wellness Committee. That's going to be a member benefit for all of our NIAAA members, because we're going to put a ton of resources out there to help you help yourself have a little bit more emotional wellness and take care of any mental health issues that definitely will pop up, which we're all going to have. So I think those are the top three I'd go for us. And then also just the broad one is use your state associations, use your networks, use your people, and know that you're not alone.
Well, you probably see me scribbling all these things down. The Calm app, I love that. And, of course, anytime somebody mentions, the boundaries and the balance, that's right up my alley. Okay. All right. Mark, what 3 tools are you going to put into your new athletic director toolbox?
Yeah, I think the first one for new ADs is sometimes you got to let things breathe. Sometimes you don't need to make a split decision right there at the second at the very moment there. Certainly, if you're dealing with an injury or something, but let it breathe. Be sure you're in a good headspace when you deal with it, and just to, not everything needs an immediate answer. I think would be the first thing. The second kind of piggybacks on Jeremy is pick a mentor. Don't wait to be assigned a mentor. Find somebody who you click with, and get them on speed dial. Put them and reach out, because I think I know working with local ADs, it's very important to me that they're comfortable and that they do the best they can, because it helps me. When I'm dealing with another AD who is on the ball and things like that, that helps me with my job. So find somebody there to really attach yourself to, and use them as a sounding board. And the last thing is just be a sponge. I'm learning every day, and I dare say that Jeremy is as well. Is take in everything, challenge yourself. Right now in my school, we're looking at how we're awarding varsity letters. The easy thing would be to keep it the way it is, but some of these requirements are go back to 1977. So, be a sponge, but take risks. Get yourself out there, and we're a very close knit group, ADs. We've all been there. We've all been through it, and use your resources.
I love that, looking at policies that might date back a number of years, and
Yeah.
Your analogy there, be a sponge, very cool stuff. Gentlemen, again, a pleasure spending this time with you. Thanks so much for sharing with our listeners. Once again, if one of our listeners wants to network and connect like you talked about, Mark, let's go with you. How do they get a hold of Mark White?
The best way is email, lowercase, White M at SAD1, the word at SAD, and then the number 1.org. White M at SAD1.org.
And Jeremy?
Well, come seek me out at Nationals in Austin. I'll be there Thursday to Wednesday. But before that, if you want to set something up or just connect or get some resources, email is also the best way for me. And that's jschlitz@madison.k12.wi.us, and look forward to connecting with some new people. And I hope this is a way to broaden my network as well. So thanks for having us on, Jake.
Oh,
Thank you,
absolutely.
Jake.
Oh, no, you guys are great. We'll have to bring you back. Well, Mark and Jeremy, again, thanks again. Tremendous information. Thanks for all the work that you're doing, your state level and with the NIAAA. And definitely, we will all connect in Austin at the national conference. Okay? For listeners, we want to say thanks to you and remind you that we upload the Zoom recordings of all of our interviews to the Educational AD Podcast YouTube channel. We do this just about every day, sharing stories and best practices. So hopefully you'll catch us on the next episode of the Educational AD Podcast. We'll see you next time.